If we zoom into this corner of Europe, we can see row after row lined up with greenhouses as far as you can see. This is the Netherlands, famed for its urban planning channels and tulips. A country smaller than Maine and Nova Scotia is the second largest exporter of food on the planet. In this video, I want to show you how this country went from famine to becoming the world's greenhouse. As always, welcome to this video. Strongly consider subscribing. Now, there are two reasons what makes this number more impressive than it should be. The first reason is in part due to the Dutch growing a lot of expensive produce, such as tulips and other expensive products like fine cheeses, like Gouda. The second being that your €100 billion figure does not mean the Netherlands grows all that food, but rather shows the value of its exports. For example, some foods, such as avocados, are said to be exported by the Netherlands, but are grown somewhere else. Imagine Dutch avocados with you, but in reality, only 57% of all those exports are grown in the Netherlands. While that is not €100 billion, that is still a lot for this relatively tiny country and impressive enough to dedicate making an entire video about. The way how the Dutch are so focused on agriculture comes down to self-sufficiency, not needing to rely on other countries for food. There is always a need for the Netherlands to focus on this because it was a small country with a lot of people right next to a country going through its emo phase. One of the ways the Dutch could reach its self-sufficiency was by draining the sea and creating more land. This reclaimed land ended up being a massive bonus as it was highly agriculturally productive. You can see this in my previous video on why the Netherlands almost never floods, where I go into this in more in depth. However, during the Second World War, there was a massive famine in the Netherlands, while the Allied forces, combination of Canadian, American, and British forces, tried to alleviate the food shortages with food drops via air. Despite the efforts, over 20,000 people died as a result. After the war, this famine pushed the whole idea of self-sufficiency into overdrive in the Dutch government, as this was a matter of national security. One of the people to change things was a Dutch resistance fighter turned Minister of Agriculture named Siggo Mansholt. Came up with the plan to make the agricultural sector more productive. His plan is what we know as the Common Agricultural Policy, or CAP for short. His contribution largely consisted of merging smaller farms into bigger farms because of the economies of scale would help drive efficiency, creating minimum support prices to make sure the cost of farming did not exceed the amount farmers earn, as this would drive farmers out of the industry. Finally, he imposed taxes on imports, or tariffs as they are called, to make sure that European farmers were on an even playing field when comparing to other countries. The current Common Agricultural Policy has three parts to it: the Basic Payment Scheme, Sustainable Land Use Scheme, and Rural Development. The Basic Payment Scheme is a direct payment sent to farmers based on how much entitlement 1 hectare gives. The more eligible hectares of land you have, the more you'll get paid. The second part is market measures, to make sure there are rules that protect farmers and make sure there is fair competition. This could include the rule of law relating to agriculture, such as international trade, targeted support for certain sectors of the agricultural industry, or rules on marketing. The third big part is sustainability and rural development. The sustainability part will provide money to farmers for doing green initiatives. There are three parts to this, such as crop diversification, protecting grassland and ecological focus areas. The rules say the farmers larger than 10 hectares have to have 2 different crops, and farms larger than 20 hectares need to have 3. Finally, the main crop cannot take up more than 75% of the land on a farm. There may be exceptions to this rule, such as if there are parts of the farm that are grasslands, and grasslands are already pretty darn good for the environment. This crop diversification helps to make sure that agriculture productivity does not fall over time and cuts down on our need for fertilizer. As it followed a more intensive model of agriculture, it would require a lot more fertilizer to keep production at the same level. A less invasive model improves the ability to take in carbon and increases its resiliency to the impacts from climate change. This system and some climate policies, let's say for now, has its flaws and is controversial recently, and its controversies should be a story for another time when discussing particular advantages in the Netherlands, because these incentives exist in some part in every European country. The Dutch have massive natural advantage over other countries. It is a flat country. It is as flat as Kansas, and unlike Kansas, it has plenty of rain, which allows them to grow high value crops like tulips. Pretty much throughout history, great agricultural societies arose from rivers that feed them. Think of the Egyptians, or the Chinese, or ancient Mesopotamia, or America. For the Netherlands, it is the River Rhine, or Maas. This means all the nutrients go straight into the soil when the river banks overflow and act as a natural fertilizer. This gives the farmers in the Netherlands a massive advantage compared to other farmers in continental Europe. A lot of countries depend on their natural advantages, but in that case, I'll be talking about India and its Ganga River, or China and the Yangtze, who have tons of natural advantages. Or if subsidies were the only thing, I would be talking about countries that massively subsidize agriculture. What allows the Dutch to pull ahead is innovation. In a large part, it has to do with this university, Wageningen University, or WUR. They are to the Netherlands essentially what Stanford is for Silicon Valley, acting as a place of doing agriculture research and providing industry with fresh graduates. The university creates new technology or enhances it with research, then the private sector comes in to capitalize on. The story of Wageningen in its current state starts in the 1990s. Create a more efficient academic sector, the Dutch government, more specifically the Ministry of Agriculture, which was responsible for not just agriculture-related activities, but education and agriculture, decided to put a lot of separated agencies that were for agricultural research into one, Wageningen UR. The area around the university has a long history of being a small agricultural research station in 1877 to now, with multiple research departments. It made sense to focus agricultural research in this area. This was done at the time because the Netherlands was being further incorporated into the European single market. There was a need to innovate, and because as a small country, that was their best option. One of the main goals of this was to increase innovation by incentivizing technology transfer, a critical thing for leaders of the time to get right. There are many ways that universities can engage in technology transfer. There's licensing, think of it like renting an idea for other companies to use at a set cost. Patenting, where a researcher files a patent for something that they have created, prevents someone from copying their idea or innovation. Joint research, company in question share information, scientists, and resources to speed innovation. Then there are spin-offs, where one innovation created for one problem ends up being incredibly useful for another problem. A good example of this is the invention of memory foam by NASA astronauts, now is used for passengers in planes, and today we use it in mattresses and all sorts of other things. Then there is joint supervision of PhDs between companies and the university, where companies help with the training of PhDs. Is different from joint research, as the intention is to create skilled graduates for the companies. The universities like it because it means more seats and students get in the field training. The companies like it because the workers are more likely to stay at the company after doing the PhD. While all the universities that engage in some form of technology transfer, there is a difference between them and WUR. That is, Wageningen is more focused on tech transfer with companies and making it easy for scientists to do so. This has earned the place around the university the nickname Food Valley, taken from the term Silicon Valley. Now, to be clear, technology transfer is not very common within agriculture. There are some examples of it happening, but not much. So Wageningen is a pioneer in agriculture by putting more emphasis into technology transfer. There are four main ways the university is able to reach the level of innovation it has. First, it's giving each department in the university more freedom to do technology transfer with the private industry as they see fit. There are 5 departments in the university as listed here. The decisions on how to do technology transfer come from bottom up rather than top down. For some breakthroughs, it could make sense licensing technology. For something else that is more disruptive, it could make sense giving that knowledge to a startup that is less worried of doing risky endeavors. Or maybe for something else, a joint partnership with a company makes more sense. However, the larger picture is clear that each department, the people who are hands-on with the research, gets to decide how they want to deploy a certain technology out into the field in a way that makes sense to them. Second, cutting bureaucracy within the university to make sure that scientists spend more time doing what scientists should be doing, researching and furthering our understanding of the world. The university has technology transfer specialists that will handle all the bureaucratic work. Say if you want to apply to patent an invention, you will have substantial help with finding out whether or not you can patent your invention or dealing with a patent examiner. And if you got any other bureaucratic needs, the university has got you covered. The university also has general agreements with companies rather than negotiating with companies every time a researcher wants to work with another company. The university has embraced a culture that the goal of technology transfer should be a way for researchers to give back to society, not really a way to make money, although there is plenty of room for that. While the university does not get in the way of making money, rather focuses on incentivizing researchers to pursue technology transfer. For example, to partner with industry, all an academic has to do is contact the department's lawyer and specify the collaboration they want to do with the company and other details like cost and the general plan. The lawyer does all the bureaucratic work. Once done, the researcher sends the contract to the company and it's done. This close connection to industry and scientists in the university helps make them more productive as well. While partnering with companies in the local area, scientists can get access to real problems in the industry. More importantly, companies can help with funding for research. Finally, Wageningen is located in a place with lots of agri-tech R&D facilities from the largest of companies. This means the chance that a person might bump into someone that might lead to a conversation that leads to some new innovation is much higher. You might know of this as the water cooler effect. Also, since everything is closer together, it leads to more closer cooperation. Companies that can work remotely still choose to have offices in the Wageningen area, as said by an interview with university staff, and because they see a tangible effect of this close proximity between scientists and themselves. The whole area also gets a boost as smart people from the university leads to tech companies coming into the area, which leads to investors coming into the area to fund those ideas that the smart folks from the university create. And as a result, more smart people come to the area to do what they do. You can now begin to see that we have a cycle that is formed. This is similar to how the development of Silicon Valley happened and many other similar technology clusters in the world. Now, at least for the Netherlands, this network effect is in full force, bringing more high-tech agricultural jobs to the area. Reports of new research centers opening in the area is quite common, like Unilever opening a new R&D facility. Also, when you look at Google Maps in the area and zoom into where you just find a whole host of different agri-tech startups. This is the network effect of the university in full force, and that R&D lab that I talked about employed about 550 people, which is a lot of high-tech jobs for this area, and it's very possible that some of them go on to create companies of their own, feeding on to this cycle. If you like videos like this one, I recommend subscribing to our channel. Be sure to check out our other videos on similar subjects. Thanks for watching. I hope to see you in our next video.